Okay, so we should be running right now. You should be fine. So welcome everybody on the next Storware webinar. Today, my special guest is Simon Cotter from the Oracle. Hello, Simon.
Hi, Paweł.
It's great. Hi. I know that you are double thanks because we know I know personally that you're right now on a holiday in south of the Italy on beautiful Sardinia. Yes.
Yeah, you're right. I'm here, but having an hour to share those things is really quite important. Yeah,
really appreciate your time. You are an important person because you know what's going on behind the scenes. If you're talking about the OLVM product itself, so Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. And today we have a plan to both of us discuss the backup and disaster recovery strategies for OLVM. We can use the shortcut OLVM. We need to educate that this means, overt KVM implementation with the maintenance from the Oracle. Yes?
Yeah, sure.
Just a few words about you for the audience, please, Simon.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is, as Paweł said, is Simon Coter. I joined Oracle, more than 16 years ago. Initially, as I was part of the consulting team, then around 6 years ago, I moved to the product management team for Linux and virtualization. And today I have my own team there that is responsible for both Oracle Linux as well as the server and desktop virtualization solution. And obviously between them, we have the desktop virtualization solution that is VirtualBox and the server virtualization solution that is Oracle Linux KVM with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, that is the new management solution for Oracle Linux KVM built from the open source project named Overt.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, today's discussion is a little bit deep dive on how we can make the life easier from the disaster recovery perspective. So first of all, we need to understand that vProtect, we will concentrate how use the Storware platform called vProtect to reach and enhance the existing backup and recovery capabilities for the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. So let's discuss a few different places where the vProtect can actually help. First of all, we have a VM level snapshot backup recovery and snapshots. So we can have a snapshot management feature, but the key point is to grab the data, grab the VM, go through the API, do snap, do the export, and take this data somewhere outside our data center. And it can be file system, object storage, or even the Oracle Cloud. You will see the example and the way how we can achieve these goals from the disaster recovery perspective, for example. And this is the second point, yes, DR, not only the backup, but how we can use and what type of the features we could use in the vProtect itself to help achieve the disaster recovery, to make the business continue to be running all the time and eliminate the data losses or any stops in our businesses. Important part is that the vProtect itself is the agentless data protection. So keep in mind that if we'll communicate with the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, we don't need to use any agent at all. Everything is going through the API or the SSH directly to the host or the VM. Snapshot Manager I already mentioned. And important part is that OLVM actually has its own database that keeps all of the configuration. We also have the option to protect this database, to keep in mind that in case of any disaster recovery, we can start to recreate and even the cluster from the configuration point of view. Then we'll need to concentrate on the VMs itself. Before we will go to the disaster recovery, let's just remind what type of the backup strategies we have and we supporting for the Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. So first of all, and one of the most common strategies that we're using is the disk attachment. It means that we're using the native version 4 API. There is no chance to use the old version 3 in the OLVM. But here you can see that the vProtect node which is the data mover for the backups and recovery, need to be placed as a one of the VMs running on our OLVM cluster. Then we have a vProtect server, which is actually managed all of the and orchestrate all of the backups. And we have a backup destinations, like I said, file system, object storage, or other backup vendors that we are supporting. Really good. Few pros and cons. We cannot use in OLVM the export domain for the backup perspective, so we natively eliminate, and we still waiting. Or maybe this is a good question, Simon, to you. When you're planning to actually have version 4.4 available on the market, because we know that in the Ovid project there is CBT already waiting for us to have the capability to have an incremental forever backup based on changelog tracking. Do you have any hints when the 4.4 is planning to be available on the Oracle side?
Yeah, so it's something where the engineering team is actually working on it. For sure, it's something that is going to be planned for the next calendar year. Yeah, that said, I do not have now an ETA that can be shared. What I can say is that we are really working on the overt 4.4 release, as well as our team is also working on 4.3 release. So we are working on both now. It's an important project that we have at Oracle also, because overt 4.4 is going to introduce the support for Oracle Linux 8. And even there, we are also working on the KVM side, so on the server side of the solution with updated releases of libvirt and QEMU. Yeah, just to get to get all the possible enhancements that have been addressed into the updated release of those components that at the end gives you yeah, if you want, also improvements related to performance, as well as other options or other features available on the KVM side that for sure are going to be leveraged by what will be OLVM 4.4 release.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you for this update. So it's important information that you're working on both versions these days. The next backup strategy is the disk image transfer API. I'm personally, it's not one of my favorite because it requires using the ref or the OLVM in this scenario manager to take all of the transfer through the OLVM manager, and it can be quite the bottleneck. But this image transfer, the process works really good and it's efficient. But keep in mind that in a huge environment, we do recommend, in most cases, going into the strategy 3, which is our own strategy based on the SSH transfer. So we go in on each host independently through the SSH, and we are allowed to grab in the data to have an incremental backup, full and incremental backup through comparing the changes and sending these changes through the SSH or with the netcat to the vProtect node to the specific backup destination. Here we have a customers which has more than 100 hosts supported by this strategy. So keep in mind that this is one of the most robust and scalable strategy these days for our OLVM customers. I believe that in the future, the most common usage, correct me, Simon, if I'm wrong, will be the disk attachment, because the CBT will be included in this strategy. And I believe that rest of them will be also keen to use, but the recommendation will go through this disk attachment. It's quite, it will be the most robust and hopefully the easiest way to have the incremental backup forever approach.
Yep, you're right. That one is the one that perfectly works today, and for sure will be also able to leverage the CBT once Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager 4.4 release will be available, and at that point it will be much easier also to get incremental backups for your VMs.
Okay. So glad that we sharing this these thoughts. It's important. Let's move right now. Okay, we have a backup on one side, and we need to start in the disaster recovery implementation. We need to be aware that we need to find a way how to replicate the data between, in our case, between the nodes, between the clusters, or OLVM. So imagine that the left side is your on-prem scenario, and the right side can be your disaster recovery or secondary side, but it also can be your OLVM installation on the Oracle Cloud. And this is a really important part because lately Oracle announced that you have a full supported implementation with the nested virtualization or the physical servers or bare machine servers on the Oracle Cloud, which allows you to do not build the secondary disaster recovery site on your on-prem, but you can choose on the right side the Oracle Cloud as your major disaster recovery place. Simon, a few more words about the nested virtualization feature for the Oracle with the Oracle Cloud and OLVM.
Yeah. So yeah, I can give a quick overview related to this. So what today is available on-prem as Oracle Linux KVM and with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, the same kind of solution can also run on the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. And this is it's really pretty cool if you want, just because at the end you can decide to run your own private cloud solution into the service offered by a public cloud vendor like the Oracle Cloud now. You know, in the past, maybe one of the most important requirements while trying to build a disaster recovery strategy was really related to identify the possible data center where to build your standby site or your secondary site where to run the disaster recovery solution. Now, the cool point is that the Oracle Cloud infrastructure is really growing worldwide. I think that we are now around 35 or 36 different regions that are available worldwide, and this number is also going to grow in the next months and also next year. So I know that we are also growing in terms of numbers of number of regions dedicated to the Oracle Cloud. And so this kind of thing means that you can decide to install and run Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager as well as Oracle Linux KVM on the Oracle Cloud infrastructure, and over there build your disaster recovery solution. So starting from your primary data center that is there on-prem, you can build the disaster recovery solution and run it on the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. That said, the very interesting option there on Oracle Cloud is that you can decide to run Oracle Linux KVM on a bare metal system, as you usually do also on-prem, or you can even decide to run the Oracle Linux KVM hypervisor on a VM shape. So on a virtual machine with nested virtualization. And I also have to say that performance are not so bad, even if you're going to run your environments on a nested VM, so on a nested hypervisor. What is the cool point? The cool point is that you can decide to, for example, to run your disaster recovery solution and leverage a VM shape, or leverage a VM shape with a limited amount of resources. You can decide to run a bare metal system and even run your services there with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager and Oracle Linux KVM. And you can even decide to stop and start this kind of environment whenever required. And so pay only when those instances are up and running. And so if you have a huge environment on-prem, you can decide, for example, to run only one server with Oracle Linux KVM on the Oracle Cloud, and this server is going to be dedicated to the data replication with the Storware solution that Paweł is sharing with us today. And in case of a disaster, you can then decide to start up all the other servers to then bring up the services on the disaster recovery side. So there are so many options. You can decide to have a disaster recovery solution, but also run VMs there, for example, and run development or test VMs. You can even decide to run a bare metal and run production system there, while in the background you also have a disaster recovery solution running with Storware data replication.
Yeah, and you can see that. I love the point, Simon, that you said, and this is the key point to using the Oracle Cloud in this scenario, that you don't need to replicate actually everything. We can decide based on the specific folder, because behind the scene, we need to decide what backup destination we'll use. It can be the DRBD file system, it can be the VDO file system, it can be the ZFS with the deduplication and the replication methods. So we are really open to decide what storage should be behind the scenes with the vProtect, and we need to decide what type of replication we should use. But imagine that if we go in and replicate data on the write to the Oracle Cloud, then we can decide that even we can use the object storage to store the data. We already certified with the Oracle object storage as a vendor. But what is more important, what you said, is that there is no need to want to run replicate and run the environment in disaster recovery all the time. We can just power on the environments based of our disaster recovery periodical testing, or in case of really disaster on the left side that we have. And so the cloud giving us the option that we don't need to pay all the time and, let's say, double the costs, and we can think smarter how to build the way to not even replicate, but to manage the disaster recovery testing, etc. And I will show you one feature that will help you to periodically recover the data. This is not snapshot management. I just want to mention that we can not only do the backups, but we can manage the snapshot of the chains. We can protect the application, like our own internal MariaDB database that stores all of the metadata. But the key point here is use the recovery plans. And recovery plans is the feature that we proposed roughly about a year ago that helps to automate the way how we can restore our virtual machines. If we will come back to the slide, the disaster recovery scenario demands two different nodes. Because like I said, the node is a data mover, so grabbing the data from one place to the other. So imagine that node one, like let's name it node one on-prem, is doing all of the dirty job to doing the backup every day. The storage layer doing the replication to the cloud, and then we have a standby node which can help and handle all of the restoration part from the replicated backup destination on our state by disaster recovery nested virtualization in the cloud, for example. So how it works? You need to create the rules here. Sorry, it's a little bit small font here, but imagine that the rule decide which VMs from which hypervisor, based on which schedule and restoration parameters, like override the existing, name it as a new one, put into the different configuration, helps us to achieve the automation of the restoration processes. The next work that we have in our plan in the backlog will be to have some health check statuses, not only recover the data, also power the VMs, power on, but also go inside with, for example, Ansible playbooks and check the health check if all of the services are properly running after the restoration. So this is the long-term goal that we would like to achieve through this feature that we introduced roughly about a year ago. Coming back and understand the OLVM options, other options than to use even our own software, is that you can build your own active DR cluster, which demands, in this scenario, for example, 3 hosts on the left, physical host, and 3 hosts on the right. Let's imagine again 3 bare machine hosts in the Oracle Cloud. Here, the good point is that active means that you don't need to care in case of lack of the ability of the one side, everything goes on the right side. So site B become available if the site A, if it's not. Not good point is that you need to actually double the hardware, double the resources, double the storage, because the storage will be replicated in the end. Another scenario without the vProtect, for example, is to use the DC replication active passive. Here we have an example. We have two environments, one active primary and the secondary as a backup. Red Hat or the OVIRT prepared also the dedicated playbooks how to cope with this type of the scenarios. Ansible playbook DR setup, Ansible playbook DR RHV failover. Actually, Simon, do you already working with this type of the YAML scenarios on the OLVM? Because I found it the RHV versions, which will, to be honest, working also in OLVM.
Sorry, I didn't get your question, Paweł.
Okay, what about the playbooks? Haven't tested yet on OLVM, but because
yeah, absolutely.
It will work one-to-one, yes.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, an important thing to know related to OLVM is that we didn't fork the open source project. So in terms of API exposed by OLVM, you can find the same API exposed by OVIRT, 100% compatible, 100% binary. So it's the same solution at the end if you want. The only difference, obviously, between the open source solution and so OVIRT and the OLVM is the support coming from Oracle, and then we also have other options around the same solution, like the certification of the different Oracle products on top of it. But that said, the API exposed are the same, and so if someone already built something for OVIRT, the same kind of thing perfectly runs on Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager.
Mm-hmm. For those of you who would like to find these Ansible playbooks, I encourage you to go to the GitHub OVIRT Ansible disaster recovery, and definitely it will help you to achieve the active passive DR. So they are already tested and proved playbooks here. So keep in mind that even in the OLVM, it will works perfectly. Okay, small thing, small live demo as I promised. Just give me a sec to change the way how I should share my screen. Okay. I just disabled the video. I need to come back on a stage for a second. Oh no, give me a sec. Actions, enable screen sharing. Sorry for that, it's a new platform and it demands a little bit different approach than I used to use it. Give me a sec. Simon, do you see the OLVM UI?
Yep. It's there. Yep.
Okay, beauty. So this is also a good chance to show you what we've done lately with the native OLVM UI integration. So this is the good news for all of those who don't want to just jumping out between the different UIs. We build the new tab and the new totally menu called the VM backup. It's related, of course, to our vProtect. But let's just go really fast through the major features like dashboard, virtual machines, etc. In a dashboard, you can see the data only related to the specific hypervisors, how many applications we are protecting, what's the success rate from the last day on our demo, and what are the source, the targets from my OLVM where we store in the data. You can see that if we integrate with data domain, for example, video, Veritas, different flavors of the targets. Let's go to the virtual machines. Let's find my virtual machine base of the hypervisor. I have a hypervisor called OLVM. I have two machines. There's Alpine Linux and Alpine running. Now let's try to just invoke and run backups from here. So again, what I will do right now is I will just send the RESTful API from my Patternfly UI in the OLVM to the vProtect, and the vProtect will ask, again, coming back OLVM, okay, just do the backup, incremental one or the full. Let's try to do the incremental or the full, no worries. It will be much more bigger statistics. And let's send this backup to the Dell EMC in this case. Let's try, maybe it will work. Nope. Why not? Let me just refresh my web page. I don't know why. Doesn't want to cooperate with me on a live demo. Don't be shame. Virtual machines. We have Alpine running. Oh, definitely. You know, when I refresh Simon, something went wrong. Let's do the full. Nope, it doesn't want to cooperate. Funny thing. Let's see the task console. Backup cleanups. Let's try to find the schedules. But in the details, I see that I invoked the backups. I will just log in out and log in again. Doesn't matter. I don't know why. It's always on the live demo something goes wrong. We have a backups history. You can see that just before the webinar, I tested do some full backups, and it's cost around roughly about 2 gig. I haven't done the restoration. We have information about the snapshots, disk on these machines, what type of the schedules, and the settings. Here, this is the place where we can actually treat the application inside. Imagine that you have in some internal application like Oracle or the other databases. You would like to just, before the snapshot, go invoke the information, just, let's say, go into the freeze mode, wait for the snapshot, and then unfreeze. So imagine that you can go inside the SSH and tell the VMs what's going on before and the post snapshot. Of course, to have the access, you need to validate and put the proper SSH information. Let's just find these virtual machines here. OLVM running. Let me use the vProtect straight away to just invoke. I cannot do the incremental. Okay, I find what I did, I believe, the wrong choice. Then I need to go to the policy. I will create the policy OLVM, so give me a sec. Is the demo, that's so I will find based on my Oracle Linux VM machine called running, and I will specify the rule when this machine should go, what should be the snapshots daily. Before I need to first attach the VM to the incremental schedule. Then the actually vProtect will allows me to run the incremental backups. Before that, I cannot run the incremental without it. So we have an OLVM policy. We just run this task. Okay, let's see if this task is also visible from the OLVM. Okay, good. We can see that we can remove this task is running. Let's go to the policies. Let's check if on the policy part we have the OLVM. There we go, OLVM. We can see that there is a machine already attached, or we can choose the different ones. The rules that I already decided are here. So sorry for that. I need to skip for a second to show it in a vProtect. But basically, most of the schedules policies and the backup of the virtual machines you should do from the UI. In case of restoration, remember what I said. When you would like to go to the different DR side, you need to choose from where you would like to come back from your snapshot or backup base. Where is actually the hypervisors? So imagine that we have a cluster, second cluster of OLVM. So you need to choose this cluster like OVIRT or other OLVM cluster in a cloud. Then you need to choose which actually node and who will be responsible to importing your data. So which node and the name of the specific restoration VM. So this is the example of manual restoration. Of course, we can go through the recovery planning. The recovery planning are not yet available here in the OLVM, or you can see the finishing snapshots. vProtect already done the VM Alpine running. Okay, let's just do the local restoration. Let's go for it. We have some more few minutes, so import, delete, no, let's OLVM DR strategies. Restore operation, restore task has been submitted. Good to know. Go to the tasks. There is a restore task running. Beauty. In the meantime, we're doing an export, backup, and recovery. It should be fine. Maybe a little bit more minutes on it. But imagine that coming back from the VM perspective. OLVM running.
You know, Paweł, while you are showing another cool use case for this kind of features that you are showing with Storware. Suppose that I'm running my production system on top of OLVM on-prem, and I need to get my engineers, my development team, my test team working on a cloned environment just because maybe an upgrade is required or the developing of new stuff is required there. By leveraging this solution, you can really clone or get a backup and restore of your system on a third-party environment, like another OLVM running on the Oracle Cloud, and you can get your developers working there or your system administrator working there just to test maybe the upgrade process, the upgrade procedure. And the cool point is that you can build the OLVM on the Oracle Cloud. You can restore your VM there. You can do whatever you want. And when you are finished or when the project is completed, you're just required to shut down everything, throw away everything, and you're not going to pay anymore on that side, right? So you're only going to pay while you're using it.
Exactly. So this is, I believe, the key point when we will have a primary usage of Oracle Cloud with the nested OLVM. And the good point is that you're doing all of the support cases. So you are supporting the maintenance your own and your customers' on-prem solution, and you're giving the guarantee that the OLVM with the nested virtualization in Oracle Cloud can be also be maintained by the Oracle team. Based on the Oracle Linux, for example, inside. So we have let's say full coverage, and with the vProtect, which helps to orchestrate and replicate and automate the DR testing, you can have a quite robust solution for your existing, let's say, disaster recovery challenges.
Yeah, and you're right. And consider that the entire solution, so the Oracle Linux KVM with Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, is part of the Oracle Linux Premier support while running it on-prem. While if you decide to run KVM and OLVM on the Oracle Cloud, you're not required to pay anything more. So it's the Oracle Cloud subscription also gives you the support for Oracle Linux KVM, as well as Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. So at the end, it's really an interesting option.
Okay, let me stop sharing at this point. Okay, I just want to finalize what we just done in the last 40 minutes. So we are explaining you that you could, and we are advising you to leverage the option to use the nested OLVM environments in the Oracle Cloud. And I believe that the Simon is a great point of, and his team is a great point of contact to help you to leverage this kind of the environments, or your local Oracle team that working with the cloud environments. So please use it, even the test trial version that we even used many times for when we started to work with the Oracle. So there's a great opportunity to use it, even the trial for free version, to play with the nested virtualization based on the OLVM. Keep in mind that the vProtect has its own 3 different backup strategies, and also allows by the additional features like recovery plans to achieve the option that you can build your own disaster recovery policies with the vProtect and the Oracle Cloud and the OLVM by building the new site. It can be on-prem or in the cloud. So definitely there's a time for open questions. Feel free to ask. Simon, anything from your side that you would like to add to our last 40 minutes conversation?
Yeah, maybe the only thing is that I think that here we are talking of something about, or something that was really how can I say it? I saw more than one time in the past our existing customers, or customers that, for example, were used to run Oracle VM server on their on-prem data center. And so many of them were looking for solution on how to replicate data, how to build the disaster recovery solution, how to get backups for VMs. And the cool point here is that now the solutions are there. Now the solutions are available. All of them are there with Oracle Linux KVM, and by leveraging also Storware, vProtect solution, and the disaster recovery solution coming from Storware. You can also decide to run KVM and Oracle Linux KVM on the cloud. Yeah, so I think that the solution are there. And what I can say is that at Oracle we are also looking and working for to bring to all our common customers the possible best hybrid cloud solution. And with hybrid, obviously we mean a cloud solution, or a solution that run your services both on-prem as well as on the cloud, on the public cloud, and in this case the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So the solutions are there. I think that now we at Oracle we are also working on many other targets that we have for KVM and Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager. Between them we have templates and different set of templates for the KVM hypervisor. And when I'll be back from my holidays, I'm also going to get back and to get in touch again with the people today working on, for example, on the Oracle database templates for Oracle Linux KVM. So templates with the Oracle database ready to run on top of the same. Because we initially started to work on the certification of all the Oracle products on top of KVM. Now we are working also to bring to our customers templates to automate the deployment of those solutions. And also related to the backup, the quite important feature that Paweł shared with us today is related to the option to execute some custom commands before taking the snapshot and after taking the snapshot, because those custom commands can really become a fundamental option, for example, while getting an Oracle database backup, right? Because we know that the Oracle database is an always moving process, an always moving solution, and getting those options gives you the opportunity to execute or get your Oracle database cached before executing the snap, and then get your Oracle database uncached after the snapshot. It's something that I remember. It's an option that was there on legacy solutions like very old Oracle database releases and very old legacy Unix systems years ago, and those solutions were there only to real big customers that were or had the opportunity to pay a huge amount of money to get those features. And the cool point is that now those features are there, are managed by software, are managed by if you want, also open source solution like Overt, like Oracle Linux Virtualization Manager, as well as backup vendors like Storware, interested and that really do great jobs with open source project that at the end give us those features without seeing prices that are or were only allowed to huge companies in the past. So it's really great. Something great.
So Simon, again, you come back to the beautiful beach and grab some drink, I believe, after this webinar, and do not hurry to come back. No worries, just take your time. So all the best for you. Thank you all of the audience to be on this webinar during the summertime. I know it's not easy to wrap up and catch some time, especially when you have a so beautiful sun outside. And everybody who's watching the replay on the YouTube, Simon, again, appreciate your time. Let's keep in touch, and remember that if you think about the backup recovery, always keep in mind that there is a vProtect solution and there is Oracle Cloud with the Nested Virtualization option, which allows you to build a really robust disaster recovery solution with the Storware. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Paweł. Thank you for all the people that attended today, and thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Have a great day and rest of the holidays. Let's keep in touch. Cheers.
Yeah, sure. Thank you again. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.